Remember, you guys, until we hit 1,000 subscribers, 1 sub equals $1. You'd be helping out a local charity in the Seattle area. All right, let's get into the video. My name is Zach Meadows, and I'm a running back for Fredericksburg High School in Virginia. I've played football since middle school, but my goal since I started high school was to join the military in some capacity. I grew up in a military family that glorified service. My grandpa fought in World War II, and my dad has been an officer serving in Virginia for over 20 years. I was always a little bit taller than most of my peers, so I usually ended up playing tight end during my freshman and sophomore season, but I was electric with the ball in my hands. It took multiple defenders to bring me down every time, so coach eventually decided that I should try playing running back in my junior season. I was okay at the position, but I had never developed a natural instincts for cutting and finding running lanes. The big difference between my junior and senior season was the amount of muscle I put on. I was getting ready for the Marines and had pre-commit to join once I completed high school, so I was working out with other recruits every week towards the end of my junior year and during the summer. When I came back for practice in the fall, I was shredded. I grew 2 inches to 6'4", and I weighed 230 pounds. Some of my teammates were scared to tackle me in practice. My running back coach was impressed by how much I had learned about the position during the offseason and with how much better balance I had. He told me that he was going to get our head coach to run the entire offense through me. I told him that I was built for that workload. Coach came to me and asked if I could handle 40 carries in the game, and I told him that I could probably do that. I don't know about every game, but I knew I could do it at least a few times during the season if our quarterback was struggling. Not only did we run a lot out of I-form with a blocking fullback, but we even ran some wildcat, letting me just get the snap and go. The funny thing was that coach didn't really understand how great I was as a receiver too. Like I said, I played tight end freshman and sophomore year. I had great hands and my route running was solid. I felt like I could be used as a wide receiver, tight end, or a running back. I don't even know what you'd call that position on the field, but I felt like my versatility was slept on. I wasn't just a power back lowering my head and running dudes over. I mean, I can't lie, I definitely enjoyed that part. My mindset was that it's either me or him with every tackle, and I applied my training from the Marines to my approach towards football. Our second regular season game was against West Springfield, and it was legendary. I started the game with a breakaway 70-yard touchdown, and I never looked back. I was running over defenders, trucking anyone who challenged me in the gaps. My O-line was blocking their butts off, and so were my receivers. I wish we kept track of broken tackles in high school because I felt like I was averaging 2 or 3 per play. A couple of defenders got injured just trying to tackle me. Every play felt like I was getting 20 yards minimum. I think I was playing so hard because I knew my family was watching. Both of my parents were in the stands to watch this game, and I didn't want to disappoint at home. My dad had always been my #1 critic when it came to football too. He always thought I could work more on my hand-eye coordination or my lateral quickness or my speed. He knew what my weaknesses were, and I listened to him as much as I could. It's hard to have an elite level of quickness with a 6'4", 240-pound frame, but I worked on ladder and cone drills whenever I could. I also practiced in the sand to try to increase my explosiveness. In the second game of the season, I dropped an insane line. I had almost 40 carries, 400 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 catches for 44 yards. The next thing that happened was also insane. After our game against West Springfield, every regular season game we had left was canceled. I had only ever heard about this on the news, but parents demanded their high school teams cancel their games against us for fear of their kids getting concussions or being injured. So we had 6 teams forfeit against us, which led us to having an undefeated record before the playoffs. I know 2 players that we played against in the first 2 games at least that got concussions trying to tackle me. The canceled games garnered national attention, and I went from being an unknown prospect to being recruited heavily by colleges. Some of the first teams to recruit me were military teams, Army, Navy, and the Air Force. I also received scholarship offers from colleges in the area like UV, Tech, and West Virginia. What really surprised me was when Alabama offered me a full ride as the immediate second-string running back. I honestly could not believe it. I never dreamt that I would receive an offer from Bama. We were midway into the playoffs when my parents sat me down and we talked about my options for college or going to the Marines. I think we were all in agreement that I should pursue college at least instead of going straight into the Marines. I could always defer my enrollment now that my college tuition was being taken care of because of my football acumen. Surprisingly, my dad really pushed for me to go to Bama. He said that I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play for the best team in the nation and potentially make the NFL. I was still undecided. This was a big change for me from my original plans to enter the military immediately after high school. I started getting recruited by college team fan bases. People really wanted to see me go to Alabama or Wisconsin specifically. They were photoshopping me into jerseys already, and I told my parents that I was going to wait until after the state championship to announce my decision. I didn't want to overshadow my teammates or our success as a team. I owed a ton of my success this season to our amazing offensive line too. I had become the #1 running back prospect in the nation, some even saying that I was the best high school running back recruit they'd seen in a while. There was a lot of hype, and the next thing I had to do was back it up. Coming off of our first playoff game, we were already into the semifinals against Newport. Now that we were in the playoffs, I didn't expect any team to forfeit due to injury concerns, and luckily nobody did. Every game that we lost due to a forfeit was another game that my teammates and I couldn't put on tape for scouts. After beating Charlottesville, some local newspapers were saying that we were unbeatable with our ground game, while others thought that Newport would easily beat us and maintain their undefeated record with their elite quarterback play. Look, we were in 3A. Dudes were not that big or fast, especially compared to me. Our whole team was on creatine, so we had a little advantage. We were pulling two-a-days, constantly working on our athleticism. We had the ability to beat other teams purely because of our athleticism, but this game was a little bit different. It was still close in the third quarter at 14-0, and we didn't do much on offense, but our defense was clamping this so-called top-tier QB prospect from Newport. After a field goal and 2 more big rushing touchdowns from me, we punched our ticket to the state championship. The championship game was hosted at the Virginia Tech Stadium, and they had been recruiting me like crazy as a local product. To start the game, I weaved my way through blockers and defenders on a wildcat play, finding some space and eventually getting a 60-yard touchdown. We were playing against a 7-2 Portsmouth team that scrapped their way to the championship, and I respected it. And I dapped up some of the players before the game, but I also had to talk some shit and let them know that it was coming to a close. Kobe was an idol of mine, and I love the psychological warfare that he played with teammates and opponents alike. Like I said, I respected the Portsmouth dudes, and they reminded me of myself, but it's an us or them mindset. I'm not taking any chances with this. Sometimes though, you just play out of body and you're just playing off of pure instinct. I was running through dudes, catching balls near my face and taking it through the hole for scores. My teammates were showering me with lemon lime Gatorade. Nah, but for real, we stomped Portsmouth. We put them where they belonged. We were state champions, bro. What a feeling. I finished the game with nearly 400 yards and 7 total touchdowns. I celebrated with my teammates all night. The day after the state title, I was ready to make my college decision. It was tough because I had always thought I was going to go to the Marines, but now I'll be going to study at